and your hyperspace technology and your advanced tunnels with Mach 2 super trains and your underground cities, they're so secure while we're frying and we're hitting with tsunamis and global earth changes, they'll all be entombed in their rock graves deep in the earth, in the bowels of hell. That's their future. So don't think you can hide yourself. The only thing that'll save you won't be your guns, it won't be your bad attitude, it won't be your bullets or your physical prowess, it'll be your spirit. And if your spirit tells you to go to the left and you want to go to the right, you better listen to your spirit. And you better do a lot of praying, people, because if you don't become centered, and that means not me telling you what to do, but you finding out what your God wants you to do. It says, to those who are going to die by the sword, they will die. And to those who are to be imprisoned, to those who are going to be martyred, and there's going to be a lot of martyrs, they're going to be trying to tell the others, this is what's coming. Because we are not years, we are months away from catastrophe. Look at this. Climate shift, mass species extinctions, geopolitical collisions of empires of total domination, invasions of consciousness. This is what we're facing. When we're talking about this tonight, we're talking about them literally invading the cortex of the human mind. The vertical rise of technologies, they call the singularity. The post-human, transhuman species, they literally want to replace us. People think, well, I'm so good. I don't care if you're a billionaire. Do you have an IQ of 20 billion? Do you have a mind that is now meshed with a supercomputer array that can know everything about everything that goes on the planet? Do you have a lifespan of 20,000 years? Can you travel across the galaxy and advance technology with other civilizations? Well, I don't think so. So therefore, if you don't recognize what you are as a spirit being first, our civilization will soon end because we will not join the galactic, if you want to call it, civilizations. We are an infant culture about to learn to walk, and they're looking and say, look, he's going to walk. No, oh, he's going to fall down the well. Are we going to walk, or are we going to fall down the well? And it's all dependent on these questions. What evidence supports that we are not alone? Every religious book has talked about the seers, or the watchers. I call them long-standing, intelligent, foundational entities. They call them the Ben Elohim in the Bible. Suppressed NASA, SETI, Vatican telescope evidence, all kinds of evidence that we have not only at higher dimensional beings that are astral, we call them demonic, whatever you want to call them, but there are beings in all kinds of civilizations across our galaxy and our cosmos and universe, not only from somewhere, but from some when. And that may be from the past, present, or future. We should not limit ourselves and our minds to understanding the nature of our universe, because those who do not know, as we cross the nexus, not asking these questions is a formula for death. So it's not an optional thing. What evidence supports that we are not alone in the universe? Well, this is like the original list of the Majestic 12. And I have people, I won't go too far down the rabbit trail tonight, but I want people to understand that I have people that want to talk, but they say they don't want to destroy everybody's religion by telling them really what's going on when they go to deep underground military bases. They don't want to really destroy and terrify people to let them know that they've actually been trading human flesh, and why hundreds of thousands and millions of people disappear every year from Eastern European and America and elsewhere in the world, and South America, disappear into underground facilities, off-world bases, and other places for experimentations, genetic engineering, and as human veal. They need to know that a lot of this technology and a lot of the evil, it sounds occult because it was. These entities, if you look at the, if you want to call it renditions of the, where people disappeared, so-called taken away by ETs, in converse to Mr. Greer, Dr. Greer, they're not all nice. There's nice ones, and there's not so nice, and then there's really damn nasty. And you need to know that we need to be a little bit more discerning. It's like going down to South Central LA. I'm sure you wouldn't go there unless you knew what you were doing. The Thule Society and these people channeled, and again, I've mentioned this before, and there's various individuals that are doing things that I consider very damn dangerous, such as people like Dr. Fred Bell. And he opened up some astral gates using advanced scalar and sacred geometry. These are dangerous. If you play with fire, you're going to open up rents. And that's what they did when they did the Philadelphia experiment. That's what they did when the Nazis opened up these astral gates, and they let these astral vultures and parasites come through this gate. Most of the technology that the Nazis got was through channeling. It's not all a good thing. You should be aware that when you're playing with fire, you may well get turned into a cinder. Okay? So they were seeking Stargates. In fact, part of the reason why they invaded Iraq was they were looking for the ancient Stargate that was actually at the ancient museum in Iraq. And there's another Stargate that's in Iran, which is one of the reasons why they want to get to Iran, because there's another Stargate there. They understand this technology of sacred geometry, and these monsters, these idiots, want to open more Stargates. Because they get more channeling and more technology and more converse with these entities, they gain more power. That's why when you look at the technology and the writings of people like Blavatsky and the Theosophists, you say, these people were like Harry Potter. They're occultists, Kabbalists. Look, the Kabbalists, the Kabbalah of Babylonia is simply a use of scalar technologies and sounds to summon astral entities. They're no different than warlocks. Let's call it what it is. They're just warlocks. And they might say it's good, but it's not. What evidence that we're not alone in the universe? Well, there's a real picture of a U.S. Air Force tunneling machine. Now that's really old technology. The stuff that I talked about with John Fiala, who's good friends with Phil Schneider, the ones now are tunnel at 120 to 140 foot rock face and go 12 to 14 miles per day. They can either make a matrix city or they can make a unidirectional tunnel. And these tunnels literally lay an inner core that's obsidian, and then they put an inner core that's locked down with a maglev track in it. They vacuum them out, and these tunnel trains actually are traveling at Mach 2.0 to 2.8 underground between places, so they can cross the United States in less than 35 minutes. They connect all the major parts here. They go underneath the oceans. They connect all over the planet. And when Phil was actually going through one of these tunnels with John Fiala, some years ago, many years ago, they broke through one of these tunnels. It just turned out that the tunnel they broke through was already cored and built 300,000 to 500,000 years ago by another civilization. God knows what kinds of creatures, whether they were inhabitants of Earth or visitors. But our world is a very old world. And the very idea that somehow we're only 6,000 years old is asinine. Human beings... to believe that we're living in a young universe is absolutely ridiculous. And if you actually look at the genetics, and I'm a scientist, but I also am a spiritual person, and I synthesize the two together because I call them the two witnesses. And if your mind, which is sharp as a razor, and your spirit, which is open and flies like a dove, if you have the two, you will truly discern the truth, but you need to sharpen both. Anybody familiar with this picture? First contact. You just look at what are the goals of the old world disorder? Well, a fully integrated consciousness of all individuals on Earth, a hive mind, casts of genetically engineered nanotech and biologically enhanced transhumans. And they're already doing psychotraumas. A lot of the media, including I call Hollywood, is actually trying to psychotrauma you because they have this all planned. Most of the people that are writing these scripts and so on are feeding it from the NSA and above government agencies, and many of them are channeling this from other entities that have malevolent intentions against humanity. So don't think channeling is all good. It's not. Indications that such a culture will be subjected to a higher alien society with evil intent toward the individual nature of man, freedom of creative and deterministic thought, and promulgation of true electronic cage of mankind and consciousness. And they're doing it. And the biggest thing that I call the devil, or if you want to call it the devil-like societies or these, quote, ETs, or I call it IFEs, identified fiendish extraterrestrials, you should realize that they're not imaginary. They aren't. Sorry. The tiger that you don't believe is a tiger that can eat you. Because he'll still lick his chops after he chews you up and swallows. Is there evidence that the New World Order is alien, transdimensional, demonic? Of course it is. Every religion in history has known this, but somehow our society, being very Cartesian, doesn't know it. To their own detriment and to the laughing hoodwinking of the globalist morons. Even George Bush, just because he's a moron, he happens to be of the bloodline, so he knows a lot of these things, and he's kind of laughing at us, even though he's an idiot. Project Omega, conceived by the Nazis, and George Bush Sr., by the way, isn't an idiot, neither is his son, Jeb. They conceive these things because Project Omega literally is doing it, and they've advanced treaties that have done unbelievable things. Yes, do we have off-world bases? Of course we do. We've had a parallel space program since 1963. We have been doing parallel launches from Vandenberg Air Force Base here in California and on the East Coast. They do parallel launches and monitors it from Houston. And 80% of all the space projects have been for military purposes, including low Earth orbit satellites, star-based weapons, and, of course, they have an entire city on the moon, which they always blot out, that's doing mining for helium-3, which is used for nuclear fusion, for interstellar travel, and for advanced energy technologies. And, of course, these corporations all control the helium-3 because there are 100,000 times more helium-3 on the moon than there is on Earth, because it has a different origin than the planet Earth. Aurora Space Engineers contact on USS Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe hasn't been gone. Believe it or not, they didn't surrender. The SS did not surrender with the secret treaty of Fort Hunt. And the rat line brought by the senior Jesuit officers and the cardinals and the Pope, they brought them all over here. In fact, they're under the control of them. The Jesuit general. It really is true. Even the largest telescopes in the southern hemisphere that are monitoring the entry of Nibiru are totally under the control of the Vatican. We have a Mars colony, has since 1982, and plans for terraforming 5 different planets and moons in our solar system have already been operationally started. Okay? This is a fact. I was flying back 3 years ago from New York City, and I was sitting beside a senior Sony executive in New York, up in first class, and I said, well, what's new with Sony? And he said, well, we got this new supercomputer. It's a laptop. And I said, oh, that's cool. I said, I'll bet it uses micro laser optic logic. He said, how did you know that? That's classified. I said, my buddy that worked at Signal Saturn Systems, who was a senior NSA, and a guy that used to knock off sleepers after World War II, had one on his desk in 1962. And it wasn't human technology. Most of the technologies that you think that we have did not originate in the human mind. These are technologies that have been transferred and trickled. They have technologies that are so far beyond the basis of the human mind and imagination, you can't even imagine it. What's this? Where did the saucer technology? Well, it was channeled. A lot of this technology, when it was discovered, all of this was transferred to the Skunk Works, to General Dynamics, Lockheed Martin, all these other corporations. The Aurora spacecraft, or the Model Ts now, they got stuff that can go sublight and beyond the speed of light. They got stuff that you can't even imagine. All of this stuff is real. And I know I've talked to the pilots, I talked to engineers that actually work on the Aurora spacecraft. They travel from 5 to 12 Mach. Then they see the speed of 17,000 miles an hour to leave Earth. And then they go sublight. Sublight speed to the moon. Okay? Mind control technologies, HARP, ELF, scalar weapons. They use these in Fallujah and Najaf. They even had a thing called a SWORD, which is a operational robot that if you didn't have your dog tags, they lock on your thermal signal and they kill you, women and children, with both lethal and non-lethal weapons. Of course, it's lethal if you die, but they call it non-lethal because you might not. They're putting in Britain a thing called these Tetris tower systems that are going to be able to lock on with your cell phones and your national ID. They're going to force the British to have so they can hit you with a microwave weapon, and the British are masters at microwave death. The British have killed more people with microwave death, and I can guarantee you that this Litvinenko was a knockoff by the British because they've been trying to overthrow the Russians because the Rothschilds that are based in London are not exactly happy with Mr. Vladimir Putin. Mr. Putin has said, I'm a Russian and I believe that that we want to have a Russian empire again. So it is an empire of clay and iron, which is why my website is called Clay and Iron, because it has strong parts and weak parts. It is the last secularis empire, the last secular empire of our world. And religion is secular because it doesn't face the reality of what we are as a being. We have, cell phones like the Nokia system with directed energy to affect our minds, affect our bodies. They can cause heart attacks and strokes. There's a picture of the main Vatican library. That's the one above the catacombs. I know the people that were right there in Roswell. Actually transferred the bodies. Saw the technology. Saw the bars made of metal that didn't exist. Sorry, people might say, he's a nut talking about this. I don't care. I happen to be a cosmic, messianic Christian, which means I know that my God, which is a God of a billion galaxies and a billion worlds beyond the scope of anything, cares about me and about you. He's that great. And I say he, and the reason why is I don't say because of a sex, male or female, I say he because maleness means separate from the creation itself. God is beyond the creation and above the creation and looks down upon it and is beyond time and space and all dimensions. And disinformation programs are the smoke of a fire that of lies and hide the true nature of contacts, all the contacts. Trickle down and release technologies from above government and transnational corporations, reverse engineering to military, and eventually distant partial civilian release. The technologies that we have is a faint shadow of the reality of what we really do have.